Yungeen Ace has finally spoken after one of his biggest rivals, Slugga Tee, walked free from federal prison. And with that single moment, the spotlight has once again shifted back to Jacksonville's infamous rap scene. After spending years behind bars, one of the best-known faces of the YNR movement is officially back home. But this is far more than another headline about an inmate being released. This marks the return of a man who missed some of the most defining moments of Jacksonville's deadliest rap rivalry. While he was serving his sentence, his longtime ally Julio Foolio lost his life. The conflict between ATK and 6 Block continued to escalate, and the city's drill scene transformed completely. Now that Slugga Tee is back, Yungeen Ace has broken his silence, and his reaction has everyone paying attention. Make sure you stay until the very end because we're breaking down the complete timeline behind Jacksonville's most notorious feud, explaining exactly why Slugga Tee's release carries so much weight and what it could mean going forward. What's up, everybody? Today we're taking a deep dive into the full story surrounding Slugga Tee's release from federal prison, why it matters in one of drill music's longest-running rivalries, what Yungeen Ace had to say after hearing the news, and why fans across hip-hop are watching every move. Let's get straight into it. Before we can understand why Slugga Tee's release is such a major moment, we first have to look at the two men standing at the center of this story. Yungeen Ace, whose real name is Keonta Bullard, has become one of the biggest artists ever to emerge from Jacksonville, Florida. As one of the leading figures of ATK, he built a career that reaches far beyond his hometown, earning hundreds of millions of streams while telling stories rooted in pain, survival, and real-life tragedy. His music resonates because listeners can hear that the emotions aren't manufactured. Every song reflects experiences he actually lived through. For years, Yungeen Ace has remained one of the strongest voices coming out of Jacksonville's 904 area, consistently making headlines both for his music and for his role in one of the city's most talked-about rivalries. On the opposite side stands Tyler Simmons, better known as Slugga Tee. Raised on the north side of Jacksonville, he helped establish YNR, short for Young and Ruthless, a group that became deeply connected to the city's drill movement. Many fans know Slugga Tee as one half of the Murder Twins alongside Young and R. Mookie. Their song of the same name collected millions of views online and became one of the defining records associated with YNR. His aggressive delivery, unmistakable energy, and close ties to the 6 Block and KTA circles quickly made him one of the most recognizable personalities of the movement. Whenever Slugga Tee was on the streets, his presence was impossible to ignore, and after he was sent to prison, people noticed that absence just as much. Now that he's finally returned, one question is being asked everywhere: what happens next?
Before diving deeper into the history of this feud, it's important to understand the city where it all began. Unlike Atlanta, Chicago, or New York, Jacksonville isn't usually the first place people mention when discussing America's biggest rap scenes. Yet, despite its smaller profile, the city's drill movement managed to capture nationwide attention in a way very few expected. Much of that attention came because of the relentless conflict between ATK and the combined forces of YNR and 6 Block. The music coming out of Jacksonville felt different. It wasn't simply entertainment. The lyrics reflected ongoing events that people inside the city were actually living through. Even listeners who knew nothing about Jacksonville's neighborhoods could hear the raw emotion behind the records. The violence surrounding the music only intensified that feeling. Unlike manufactured rap feuds designed for publicity, this rivalry carried genuine consequences. When Yungeen Ace spoke about losing friends and family, those losses were real. When members of YNR or 6 Block paid tribute to fallen associates, they weren't creating fictional stories for songs. They were documenting people who had actually died. For many fans, the music became more than art. It became a running record of an unfolding conflict. To understand today's situation, we have to go back to where everything truly started. The rivalry between ATK and YNR alongside 6 Block wasn't born from a diss record or an argument on social media. Its roots stretch back to long-standing tensions between neighborhoods on Jacksonville's north and west sides. Years of territorial disputes, personal grudges, and repeated acts of violence gradually turned local disagreements into something far more serious. As Jacksonville drill exploded in popularity, the music became intertwined with the streets themselves. Songs stopped being simple reflections of reality and instead became part of the conflict. Diss tracks openly mentioned rivals. Lyrics referenced victims by name. Every release fueled fresh conversations, and every viral song raised the stakes even higher. The larger Jacksonville drill became, the more pressure each side faced every time new music dropped. Online, it's easy to build a movie-like narrative around someone's release. Living that reality is something entirely different. That's exactly why so many assumptions surrounding Slugga Tee's release should be viewed carefully. Fans are watching from the outside and projecting expectations onto someone whose personal priorities may be completely different from what the internet imagines. That gap between online narratives and real life is one of the reasons stories like this become so complicated. When all of the speculation reached Yungeen Ace, many people expected an emotional reaction, or at least some indication that Slugga Tee's release had changed the balance between both sides. Instead, Ace's camp projected the exact opposite. Rather than showing concern, confidence was the message they chose to send. Shortly after Slugga Tee's release, Yungeen Ace publicly referred to him as a cooperator, a label that carries enormous significance within street culture. Inside the world these artists come from, accusing someone of cooperating with law enforcement is one of the most damaging allegations possible. The accusation suggests that a person provided information to investigators, something considered a serious violation of the code many people claim to live by. Whether that accusation is accurate is something the public simply cannot verify through internet discussions alone. Only those directly involved in the legal proceedings know the complete facts. But from a public relations standpoint, the message was unmistakable. Rather than acknowledging Slugga Tee's return as a threat, Ace's response questioned the circumstances surrounding that return. The underlying message was clear: we're not worried about you coming home, and people should be asking why you're home. That single statement immediately reignited debate across social media. Supporters of ATK viewed Ace's confidence as proof that the rivalry had fundamentally changed over the years. They pointed out that many of the original Y&R and 6 Block figures were either no longer alive or were still serving lengthy prison sentences. The reality of Jacksonville's drill scene today is very different from what it looked like when Slugga Tee entered federal custody.
Julio Foolio is gone. Several other well-known names connected to that side of the conflict have either lost their lives or remain behind bars. From the ATK perspective, the movement Slugga Tee left behind no longer exists in the same form. Supporters of Slugga Tee strongly disagreed. They argued that his influence didn't disappear simply because he spent years incarcerated. To them, his return represented the comeback of one of Y&R's founding voices, and dismissing him before he even had the chance to settle back into life was a mistake. As expected, neither side backed down. Arguments quickly spread through YouTube videos, TikTok clips, live streams, Instagram pages, and countless comment sections, creating yet another viral chapter in Jacksonville's never-ending rivalry. For viewers unfamiliar with why the word cooperator generated such a massive reaction, it's worth explaining its significance. Within street culture, being accused of working with law enforcement can permanently damage someone's reputation. The label affects friendships, alliances, credibility, and even how rivals choose to interact with that person. Fair or unfair, accurate or inaccurate, accusations like these often carry consequences long after they're first made. If Yungeen Ace's claim were ever proven true, it would completely change how many people viewed Slugga Tee's return. Instead of celebrated as the comeback of a respected figure, the conversation would shift toward questions about credibility and loyalty. On the other hand, if the accusation has no factual basis, supporters would likely see it as nothing more than psychological warfare designed to weaken the excitement surrounding Slugga Tee's release. Either way, it accomplished exactly what Ace's camp intended. Within hours, the focus had shifted away from celebration and toward controversy. People weren't simply talking about Slugga Tee being free anymore. They were debating whether his reputation had been permanently challenged before he even had the opportunity to respond. Looking beyond the individual reactions, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. The Jacksonville rivalry that once defined an entire era of drill music is no longer the same conflict it was only a few years ago. Years of violence, criminal investigations, prison sentences, and devastating losses have reshaped both sides of the feud. Many of the names that once dominated headlines are no longer active. Some lost their lives. Others remain behind bars, facing lengthy sentences that have permanently altered the balance between both camps. The rivalry itself never truly disappeared. It simply evolved. Yungeen Ace continued building his career while navigating legal issues and remaining one of Jacksonville's biggest artists. K-Su faced major legal battles of his own. Meanwhile, the city's drill scene continued changing with every new arrest, every new song, and every new tragedy. The Jacksonville that Slugga Tee walked back into is almost unrecognizable compared to the city he left behind in 2019. That is what makes his return so fascinating. This story isn't only about one man completing a prison sentence, it's about what his return symbolizes within one of drill music's most closely followed rivalries. Over the years, music transformed a local neighborhood conflict into a national conversation. Every diss track added another chapter. Every Instagram post fueled new arguments. Every live stream, interview, or viral clip kept the rivalry alive long after individual events had passed. Songs like Who I Smoke introduced millions of listeners to Jacksonville's drill scene, even if many of those listeners never fully understood the history behind the lyrics. On the other side, Julio Foolio built an audience of his own, becoming one of the most recognizable voices representing YNR and 6 Block. As both artists grew, so did public interest in everything surrounding the conflict. Every arrest, every courtroom appearance, every prison sentence, every tragedy. Hip-hop media followed it all in real time. What began as a local dispute eventually became one of the most heavily documented stories in modern drill music. And now, Slugga Tee's release has added another chapter to that ongoing timeline. There is another reality that can't be overlooked. For Slugga Tee, returning home also means returning to a world without Julio Foolio. Within YNR and 6 Block, Foolio wasn't simply another rapper. He became the face of that movement. He carried its message, represented its side of the rivalry, and introduced countless new listeners to Jacksonville through his music. His death wasn't only heartbreaking on a personal level, it fundamentally changed the structure of the entire movement. Imagine spending 6 years behind federal walls only to discover that one of the closest people in your circle is gone forever. That reality is difficult for anyone to fully understand unless they've experienced something similar themselves. While incarcerated, Slugga Tee could only watch events unfold from a distance. He heard about Foolio's success. He heard about the ongoing conflict. He learned about the circumstances surrounding Foolio's death in Tampa. But hearing those events through phone calls, prison conversations, or limited information is nothing like stepping back into the city and confronting that reality face to face. For Slugga Tee, freedom now comes with difficult decisions. Many people online expect immediate reactions. Some expect music. Others expect public statements. Some even speculate about retaliation. But those expectations often ignore what life after federal prison actually looks like. There are practical responsibilities. There are legal restrictions. There are family relationships to rebuild. There is an entirely new version of life waiting outside prison walls. Those realities rarely fit the dramatic narratives created by social media. When you step back and examine this entire timeline from beginning to end, it becomes one of the most remarkable stories modern drill music has ever produced. It begins in 2018, with what should have been a birthday celebration inside a Jacksonville restaurant. Instead, that night ended in a targeted shooting that claimed 3 lives and left Yungeen Ace fighting for survival after suffering multiple gunshot wounds. From there, the story moved into years of diss tracks, personal losses, arrests, and violence that drew national attention to a rivalry few people outside Florida had previously known. Then came Operation Wrap-Up, sending Slugga Tee to federal prison in 2019. While he served his sentence, reports of tension between rival members continued, even from inside correctional facilities. Outside prison walls, the conflict never stopped evolving. The timeline reached another heartbreaking turning point in June 2024 when Julio Foolio was killed in Tampa on his birthday. Soon afterward, Yungeen Ace released Do It, a record that immediately became one of the most controversial diss songs in Jacksonville's history. Now, the story reaches its latest chapter. Slugga Tee is finally home. Yungeen Ace has already responded publicly by questioning his credibility and labeling him a cooperator. Each event connects directly to the next. None of these moments exist in isolation. That's why longtime followers of Jacksonville's drill scene understood immediately why Slugga Tee's release became one of the biggest talking points in hip-hop. At its core, this story has always been about far more than music. It began with neighborhood tensions. It escalated through irreversible violence. It spread through songs that reached millions of listeners around the world. Courtrooms, prison sentences, and personal tragedies shaped every new chapter. Today, another page has been added, with Slugga Tee walking free after spending years in federal custody. What happens next is something no one outside the people directly involved can predict. Only time will reveal whether this marks the beginning of a new chapter or simply the continuation of one that has never truly ended. One thing is certain. The eyes of the hip-hop world remain fixed on Jacksonville. The city has paid an enormous price throughout this rivalry. Lives have been lost. Families have been changed forever. Music has preserved every chapter along the way. And whatever comes next, history suggests that it too will be documented. Yungeen Ace has already made it clear that ATK is paying attention. Now, the question is whether Slugga Tee chooses to respond or writes an entirely different chapter for himself. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Where do you think this story goes from here? And if you want the latest updates on everything happening in hip-hop, make sure to subscribe because this story is far from over. Jacksonville's next chapter is still being written.